Hey everybody, Mo Hashem with Flat Fee Landlord Property Management. We serve Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And I wanted to take a couple minutes today to talk about a question that comes up pretty often, which is, should I allow subletting in my Northern Virginia or Maryland property? And this comes up quite often, more so with brand new landlords than existing landlords, and it comes up often because some people just are not aware that they have the option to restrict or allow subletting in their property. And one thing I want to tell you from experience, I always steered people away from allowing subletting in a residential lease for many reasons. The first being that when a sublet occurs, there's no longer an agreement between you, the landlord, and the person that's going to be inhibiting the property. The subletter is going to be the person that's going to be living in the property, but they're going to now be, in essence, leasing it from the tenant that you had rented the property out to. So as a landlord, you kind of lose a little bit of control of who got vetted, how they got access to your property. And in terms of collecting rent or, enforcing certain issues in your lease, because you now are not dealing with the person that's living in the property, you're dealing with somebody else that's no longer in the property. And that's the biggest and main concern that I always have as a landlord in regards to allowing tenants to sublet the property. Another way you can go around it is if an issue comes up where the tenant is initially renting the property and they have to break the lease for whatever reason, or the option is to sublet the property so that you as the landlord don't lose out on any income. I have always requested people or advised people on, instead of allowing to sublet, you should have a clause in the lease that explains exactly what would happen in a situation where the tenant does have to break the lease. And by doing this, it allows both the tenant and the landlord to know ahead of time of how to handle a situation where the tenant has to break the lease, so that subletting is not an option. However, you can still get the same results. And by holding the tenant accountable for the lease, and the person that's going to be living in the lease, it gives you a little bit more power as a landlord to know who that person is in your property, how they're going to treat it, how to send notices in the event that you see them mistreating the property, missing rent payments. It allows you to really do the background required to find a good tenant. So that's the main reason why I don't generally recommend subletting a property or allowing a tenant to sublet the property. It's better to come up with a clause ahead of time in the lease that really outlines exactly the steps, fees, costs, and timeline of what the tenant needs to do in order to be able to break the lease. If you got any questions about breaking the lease, subletting, leases, property management, please feel free to give us a call. You can also go to our website at flatfeelandlord.com.